The National Dialogue on Coalitions wraps up today, also down in Cape Town. The gathering has not been without its disagreements, though. The ANC wants the party with the most votes to lead coalitions. But the Freedom Front Plus and Good Party disagree. eNCA senior reporter Siphamandla Goge joins us now with some more insight into how those discussions have been going. Sipa, I suppose it's good, as you look all bundled up in good old cold Cape Town, I suppose it's good for these kinds of conversations to be put out there now. Let everybody get their feelings and emotions out there so that when it comes for coalition time, everybody knows where they stand.
The sooner the better, because the reality of the situation is the reality of the outcomes of the elections may force a number of political parties to consider working together. The electorate will dictate to political parties how they should move forward. So if you're having this discussion now, it helps to get to know how other political parties feel about it. As I'm discussing this with you, I'm going to ask Kyle just to pan a little bit and show you people arriving here. We see the leader of Build One South Africa, Mmusi Maimane, together with the leader of, or the president of eNCA Freedom Party, Velenkosini Hlabisa, and a number of leaders have arrived here. We expect that the program should get underway in about 30 minutes or so. We expect the arrival of Deputy President Paul Mashatile, and commissions will report back, because yesterday there were sessions that were breakaways, and today it will be report back sessions, and they will discuss moving forward. This is just a start. Look at this as the beginning. You know, they are saying, let's chart the way forward now. How do we deal with this moving forward? I know many people are preoccupied with 2024, but you have a current crisis at a local government sphere right now. How do you deal with unstable coalitions or working arrangements at a local government sphere? A number of councils in South Africa are hung councils. A number of big metros in Gauteng have seen instability, including the city of Johannesburg. We have seen what has been happening in Etswana and Eguruleni. So you will have a situation whereby, even though you are discussing the proposed framework of dealing with coalition governments, the reality is, what do you do now? There is a crisis at a local government sphere that has affected the provision of basic services. How do you solve that? How do political parties negotiate in good faith in the best interest of the residents and the voters? But yesterday I interviewed Helen Zille. I asked her a question about what is the role of the electorate. She said to me, well, it's the voters who have put us to this position, or in this position where we are. They must also help us to solve this by going out in numbers and vote. People must vote for whoever they want to vote for, but they must exercise that right to vote, at least to give one party or any party a decisive majority or victory, because if they don't, then parties will be forced to negotiate and form the coalition government. So the solution lies with the electorate. It's up to the voters to decide. Park Stawo is the current Deputy Minister of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs, the former mayor of the city of Johannesburg. Thank you very much for your time. Let's talk about what will transpire here today. It's day 2, a very crucial dialogue which is just the start. How do we move forward?
Thank you very much and good morning. I think firstly it's important to acknowledge that most political parties in the country have gathered here to say, let us have a conversation about the challenges that we confront, in particular in local government, and the experiences we've had with coalitions, and how do we mitigate the problems that we've already experienced in local government. Some of the ideas that have been put on the table are very good. I think there is a general consensus around a number of critical ideas. The first being that you need a legislative or regulatory mechanism to ensure that you're able to deal with coalition governments. And I think that proposal is universally agreed. What we need to now work on is actually the content of legislation and how we take forward that process. There are also other specific ideas, some of them contested by different political parties. Some are saying, well, we need a threshold to be able to qualify to be in council, but also that you might need a threshold to be able to get into the executive. Now, that has been a contentious part of the discussion, but that's exactly why we're here, is to have those discussions.
Good Party, Freedom Front Plus, UDM are not happy with that. They are saying, well, it's just a predetermined outcome by the governing ANC and the DA. You have colluded because you are using this as a fuss, according to Group's leader, Patricia de Lille.
Well, that's a very interesting conspiracy theory, I think. We did say to the session yesterday that as a Department of Cooperative Governance, post the elections of local government in 2021, we already started preparing a draft bill. The Deputy President then announced a process that says he would want an inclusive process of all political parties. So we halted the process of submitting those to Cabinet and allowed this process to take its course. But we've already started the process of drafting, and that draft will now be subjected to the conversations that are taking place today. The draft hasn't even gone to Cabinet. It's actually a draft inside the department, and will only take it to Cabinet post this process.
What needs to be done to make coalition governments work in South Africa? Because there are international practices where they work. In South Africa, at a local government sphere, we've been struggling. What is the problem? How can it be solved?
Well, two things. We have encouraged the MECs in the respective provinces whose authority it is to write the establishment notice for local government to review the Section 12 notices, because the law does allow that we amend the establishment notice of local government and therefore have a new mechanism of dealing with the problem. The other, of course, is the responsibility of political parties to manage these conditions better.
Thank you very much for your time. Park Stow is the Deputy Minister of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs. Please ask your friend Musi Maimane to join us, and I'm sure you can have a decent conversation with Musi Maimane. I know we are out of time, but I have to bring in Musi Maimane, leader of Build One South Africa. Thank you very much for your time. What is your position in this conversation, national dialogue on coalition governments? There are proposals in place. Do you agree with what has been submitted? What is your input?
No, I think more than anything, there are a couple of things that we need to add. There isn't an ideal vision as to what are the minimum issues that any coalition government has to deliver on. How do we make sure the state is professionalized so that you don't have any coalition government able to capture the state, whether in different colors? And more than anything, the structuring of the executive. I certainly think that the proposal that says that the largest party must lead is a sure way of making sure that the big parties who have failed keep a minority-majority government, if I can use that term. So I'd rather let the coalitions come together, elect the best leader so that they can lead the country forward.
What is the role of the electorate? Because it boils down to the electorate to go out in numbers and vote to avoid the situation where political parties will be forced to negotiate for power.
No, I think that our system is written for coalitions. I'm encouraging particularly young people. I think they are the most underrepresented in parliament, yet they are the majority of citizens in the country. And so my encouragement to young people, go out, register, they must vote, and they must give a mandate to parties that represent their needs. Because ultimately, with that party that identifies with young people must have a big voice regardless of what the system does. So I'm encouraging them to register and vote.
Sure. In your view, who would you work with, and on what basis and values and principles would you consider working with any political party?
Yeah, let's talk about the value of Ubuntu, this idea that we have a shared humanity. Let's talk about a vision for a prosperous South Africa together, and ultimately people who have not stolen anything.
Thank you very much for your time. Musi Maimane, they're saying, well, basically, it's up to the young people to go out in numbers and vote.
Indeed, shade being thrown so early in Cape Town. Thank you so much, Siphamandla Goge, bringing us the very latest from this very important dialogue underway in Cape Town and